I'm talking to David Kerr, who is the Associate Research Director of the Civic and Citizenship Education Study, ICCS. David, could you tell us why is active citizenship so prominent in current debate and reforms?
I think it's really prominent because there's a real concern about young people in particular not participating in society, not voting, not taking part in voluntary organisations, associations within their communities. And there's a real sense that active citizenship can impact on this what's termed democratic deficit. So I think that's one of the key reasons why active citizenship is there.
Okay, and the Civic and Citizenship Education Study did research in 38 countries across the world. And could you give us a flavour of the different ways active citizenship is perceived in those different countries?
Well, that's not easy with 38 countries, with lots of regions involved in there. And the thing to say is that you notice some real regional differences in terms of how active citizenship is perceived. So it's perceived very differently, for example, in Asian countries, where it's much more linked in with moral education and duty than it is in other parts of the world. But I think that certainly in the European countries there's that really strong sense that it's about renewing society. It is about tackling that democratic deficit and ensuring that young people have the knowledge, understanding, skills and attitudes, beginning to form the attitudes that really help them deal with the challenges that face many societies these days and which are going to face them.
The initial data have been published in June 2010. Could you share with us some key and surprising findings from this report?
I can supply some key findings. Whether you find them surprising or not is for you to decide. I think some of the key findings are that certainly by the age of 14 young people are already developing some very strong attitudes. So I think it's interesting that they support the general principle of equality and human rights, but there are some differences in terms of how those are applied in practice. So they may want some things done to protect their own particular rights which go against their general support. They do have strong civic knowledge which they develop not just from what's going on in schools, but there's a strong emphasis on what their parents do in terms of how much they discuss issues with them. And I think there's a really strong finding about the link between civic knowledge and participation, in that the more civic knowledge that young people have, the more likely they are to say that they will participate in the future. I think if we're talking about formal political processes, then it's a mixed picture, some good, some not so good. So I think the good is that they support democracy, they want to trust their national governments, they want to trust democratic institutions. The downside of that is that they don't trust politicians and they don't trust political parties. So they like the idea of the democratic system, they just don't like the people who are actually running it. And I think that's a key message for politicians to take on board. The other thing in terms of participation is that it's pretty clear that the emphasis is on participating in communities, but young people either don't do that very often or don't have great opportunities to do it. And what opportunities they do have to participate are provided by their schools in terms of involvement in discussion and debate in school elections. And therefore one of the key challenges is how you link the participation they have in their schools with what they might go on and do and participate in their communities.
Thank you very much. We are very much looking forward to November 22nd when the EU report within the study will be released. Thank you.